makes sense, because if you think about muscles and we want to stretch our muscles, they often talk about, you need to hold the stretch, and if you hold it long enough, the muscle relaxes so you can go deeper in the stretch. And so the whole thing of listening to God and the stillness aspect, we need to hold the stillness long enough until we go deeper with God.
Welcome to the Prophecy Project, an accessible prophecy podcast. In each episode, we explore some aspect of prophecy, from theology and practical aspects of hearing God, through to leading healthy prophetic cultures and exploring how prophecy can enhance local mission. Accessible Prophecy is a global ministry that helps individuals grow in the prophetic and helps local churches grow healthy and mature prophetic cultures. And now, here are your hosts, Andrew Hill and Christine Wanstall.
Welcome to the Prophecy Project, an accessible prophecy podcast. Andrew, I almost forgot the title because it's been a couple of months since we've jumped on. And
yeah, it has.
And there is, just to let everyone know, when we come into the podcast and we start the recording, it gives us a countdown from 5 to 1. And at about point 3, Andrew and I started debating who was doing the start monologue for this bit. So at about the 1 count, I said, I guess it's me. So welcome to the podcast.
So if you heard the me at the start of the podcast before Chris actually started, that's what the conversation was about. Yeah.
That's what, it's you. No, it's you. No, it's you. Oh, I guess it's me.
That's it. Exactly. How are you, Chris?
I'm really well, Andrew. I'm very well. And, I was just thinking as we were starting, what are the things that God has been speaking to us about in the last little season? Because it's always helpful, I think, for us to be able to share how do we discern what God's saying, because all of us hear God in different ways. So I guess I'm just wondering, what's God been saying to you in this last little bit? Where have you seen the prophetic, prophecy? Where have you seen that working for you or happening?
Yeah, good question. I've been getting different senses all the time. Maybe over the last couple of months since we did the last podcast, because we've been really bad in terms of getting them out there, but that's okay. And so, yeah, very, very clear pictures of different things, and particularly around some leadership stuff at church and some different people at church, and even some reinforcing of some pictures from last year that I probably hadn't done anything with so much. And so, and I tend to write things down or, put them in my notes on my phone. And so they pop up occasionally and I go, oh, I haven't done that yet. Oh, I haven't done that yet. Oh, actually, I still got to work on that. Oh, what's that about? And there are some of them I go, oh, I'm not really sure. So I keep praying into them. And because they're not necessarily, jumping out at me, but it's been good. It's been good. I feel like God's been speaking pretty clearly about some things and not very clearly about others, which, hey, is that really surprising?
No, it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, that's right. What about you? What have you been sensing? What have you been hearing? What have you been seeing?
It's interesting because I feel like the last season for me, God's been really impressing the whole element of sensing. I was interested that the first thing you talked about when I said, what's God been saying? You go, oh, I'm sensing. And, we talk about those 5 different ways that God generally, the ways, sort of categories that God speaks to us. And one of them is sensing, and the sort of intuitive, I know something's stirring. It's a bit of a, in Australia, we would jokingly call it the vibe, because the Castle movie gave us the language around the vibe. But, just sensing a continual challenge to lay down fear, believe it or not. And sort of been a bit of a theme in the last couple of years for me that God's been speaking to me personally about, taking a relaxed posture, because when you're relaxed, you're basically trusting And so having a more relaxed posture and trust in God that He's got things in hand.
Yeah.
But I probably hadn't appreciated, like a frog in a boiling water, that as things warm up, although apparently if you Google that, it's a misnomer.
Oh, is it?
Well,
Oh,
that's what I saw.
really? Wow.
Can we
You
trust Google?
warm it up gently, and they still don't jump out of the pond.
No,
They
it says that
just
they
die.
still. No, they do. Like
Oh, they
it
do.
says they do jump out.
Wow.
Anyway, who would know if it's true or not? But it's the. We could spend our podcast debating the frog in the
Oh,
boiling water.
we could. Frog in a pond. Oh well, you know.
No, that's a dessert, Andrew. Frog in a
Oh,
pond.
oh yeah, I should
That's
know that
the
because
Freddo frog in the jelly.
in the jelly. That's
Don't you
right.
have grandkids? Aren't they having
I
frogs in the pond?
do have grandkids, but they're not into the jelly and frog in a pond stage yet because too much sugar. You know what that does to grandkids. Yeah, it
Yes.
pushes them out of the pond really quickly.
We can't do that.
No,
Um,
no, that's right.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I've been having this
Wow.
sense because I feel like there's sort of been this accumulation where I've just gotten used to being a bit fearful
Wow.
and not of anything particular, but just when I probably wasn't even aware of it until
Hmm.
God spoke this word probably 18 months ago now to lay down fear. That I think the phrase was, fear is no longer to be your closest friend. And I suddenly
Wow.
went, I wasn't even aware that fear was my friend. And then slowly over the next few months, I just became more and more aware of situations where I'd go, oh, I think I'm feeling fear. Like I became a bit more aware of what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why I'm sharing this, but it's so for me, just this growing sense of how is
Hmm.
God inviting me to trust in a deeper way. And actually, I'm processing this on the podcast.
What you do is great. Go for it. We're interested, aren't we?
Well,
Yes.
I actually think it started that probably was a bit of a link to then within 6 months or so, I started having this conversation about what would it look like to go deeper in the prophetic. And so to go deeper in the prophetic, to go deeper in our relationship with God, we
Yeah.
need to be able, there are things that get in the way, so we have to lay them down, we have to let them go. But to let them go, we need to be a bit aware of what they are. And so being aware of what they are means that we need God's help to reveal them to us. Now, some of
Yeah.
them I think we probably know intuitively. I don't spend enough time with God, or I get angry or worried or upset. So we would know some of the temperament stuff for us. But I think
Yeah.
there are probably things that we accumulate over the time that actually build up without us really being aware. They just become part of how we respond and how we relate to God. But
Yeah.
if we actually want to go deeper, and it's one of the things that you and I have chatted about of this series or season of podcasts to really dig into discipleship. What does it look like to really dig into discipleship in
Yeah.
the prophetic? We have to actually be willing to look at some of this stuff that can get in the way.
Mm.
So it's just been really interesting. And I had the chance last weekend to talk at a women's retreat, and one of the topics I spoke on was fear.
Wow.
And so just being able to share some of that journey with them and to see, for a lot of us, it really, this whole thing around fear and vulnerability and courage can
Yeah.
really impact our ability to really push into God. So there you
Wow.
go.
That's good. That's really good. As you were talking, it was interesting because a psalm that I had to speak on a couple of weeks ago, and had to, I don't know, it was quite confronting because the end of it says, "Be still and know that I'm God," and that whole
Oh,
idea, yeah, of being still
Yeah.
Now, and so we're not talking about silence, like the spiritual discipline of silence, like this whole idea of being still. The whole idea is to, say, sometimes we pick up our sword and we have to, and we have to fight, and at different times, in the Bible, to put on the full armor of God, and so you pick up your shield and you pick up your sword and you've got the armor on, ready for a battle. But actually, that word "still" doesn't mean that. It means to almost drop your sword, lay your hands beside you, and so here's me. So my reflection to you of what God's been saying to me. He was talking to me through that about being still, which I find so difficult. And so, where you might say, "Oh, fear's been a thing for me," stillness has been a
Ah,
thing for me. I'm not naturally a still person. I want to be on the go. In fact, I saw I don't know whether it was a reel or something on Instagram, and it was, of this person. I think it was husband and wife was sort of trying to relax, on the banana lounge sort of thing, and the guy's doing laps, behind her with, all these things. He's doing laps and laps and laps, and it's when, one person loves to relax on the side of the pool and the other one just can't sit still. Well, I'm the one who can't sit still. And so that whole idea of, and it was funny, God was speaking to me all through different mediums as I was preparing for that. And I'm like, how do I practice stillness? And because it's in those still moments that I often will hear from God, but do I stay still long enough for him to speak? And I was reminded of, when we did that episode with Brandon last year. Was that last year?
no, that
Was
was
that
like
this year?
no, that was like 2 or 3 years ago, Andrew.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm thinking, was that only this year, or was it last year or the
No,
year before? Anyway, and he talked about, like some of his best moments is just when he's still in the shower, and
yeah.
I went, oh yeah, that's right. And so trying to be still is something that God's been absolutely speaking to me personally about.
It it makes sense because if you think about muscles and we want to stretch our muscles, they often talk about, you need to hold the stretch. And if you hold it long enough, the muscle relaxes so you can go deeper in the stretch. And so the whole thing of listening to God and the stillness aspect, we need to hold the stillness long enough until we go deeper with God.
Mm,
It's really interesting. There's so much in our society that distracts us. Like even as we're doing this podcast, I can see notifications coming in on the side of my computer, and uh, there's things that
yeah.
tempt to distract us. And the other night, I was down with a group doing a session with them around what is prophecy, and we were doing a listening exercise. And the word that I had for the person in that, I was listening for someone,
Yeah.
and the word I had for them was this image of them. Their fingers were going all over the shop, and then their hands moved together to hold a bowl of water,
Oh, wow.
and this sense of the calming of the activity of their fingers to then hold this bowl of water. And what they shared was that they've got their fingers in lots of different pies, and so to still their hands and actually hold them is similar to you. It's quite challenging to still that.
Yeah.
And then the next day they sent me an audio message to say, hey, just wanted to let you know, I woke up in the middle of the night, I got up and I decided as I was praying to actually get a bowl of water and hold it. And
Oh,
and they just reflected on what they noticed in holding this bowl of water, that they couldn't read their Bible, they couldn't put on music. All they could do was focus, and they saw this bowl as the spirit, the water as sort of being symbolic of the spirit, and all they could do was focus on holding this bowl. And so
wow.
the stillness that came out of that, and
Mm,
the almost the deepening and the impact for them.
yeah.
I think what you're talking about is fantastic example of how do we gather what God is telling us and actually do something with it.
Yeah.
and become active responders to it, but because God is speaking to us to deepen, God is speaking to us to connect in a deeper way with each one of us.
Yeah.
So, just that
Absolutely.
stillness aspect, totally, it's so important.
Yeah. And often it takes us to stop, to put down our phones and stop scrolling, and all those sorts of things,
Yeah.
and to actually hear. When you're busy doing things, you don't often hear things, and so but it is when you stop that you start to. I don't know whether you've ever stopped and just sat by the side of the road, or where we live at the bottom of some mountains in eastern Melbourne,
Beautiful out there.
and there's lots of kookaburras, which for those who are listening from overseas, are this amazing animal that has this great
Oh,
laugh.
go and have a go. Have a
No,
go
no,
at
no,
doing.
not me.
Oh,
No,
come on,
no,
Andrew.
because I'll blow the sound up. No, but sometimes, and a few weeks ago I had to do this. I had to do a planned burn on the block up the back, and I stood and I was listening to the fire as it crackled, and then I was listening to the breeze in the trees. And when
Oh,
you're totally still, you hear things that you don't hear normally. And I think that was one of the things God spoke to me about. When you're so busy, you don't hear the breeze, you don't hear the crackle of the fire, you don't hear the kookaburras. They're laughing all the time. They're there all the time. You don't hear my voice because you're too busy. So drop the sword, drop your hands, sit, be still, and know. And recognize that know means to
yeah,
recognize.
yeah.
Recognize that I'm God and you're not. Ooh. Okay. All right.
Oh, that's a bit of a challenge because
Yeah.
dropping the
Anyway,
sword actually puts you in a space of vulnerability. That
totally.
space, that space of not being able to defend yourself and
Yeah. Yeah.
not trying to protect yourself. And maybe that's part of it, that when we try and protect ourselves from things, we actually even protect ourselves from God
Yeah.
in the habits and the mannerisms and the things that we do.
Yeah.
I love I'm a big fan of Brené Brown,
Yeah.
who's the social researcher, and she defines vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure.
Ooh.
And she talks about vulnerability is actually not weakness, because that's what we often think when we're vulnerable means that we're weak. She described it as the most accurate measure of courage.
Ooh.
That even, I know,
The most
even,
accurate measure of courage is
yeah,
vulnerability.
yeah,
Wow. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool. I like that.
yeah, because it's the risk, it's the uncertainty. When you talk about fear, we become fearful of failing or being rejected or
Mm.
not having enough, and so that sense of actually being vulnerable in the stillness space, of being vulnerable in sharing words with others, in being vulnerable about how we present ourselves or what we do with what God has told us,
Yeah.
places in that place of vulnerability, and puts us in that space of actually, taking some courage to step out in what we feel like God's doing in us.
Yeah.
But I
That's
love the thought of, the stillness aspect, to actually draw down and just stop. And as you were talking, I actually went, well, there's the whole aspect of external stillness, of actually creating the space so we're not distracted by external things.
yeah.
But the harder bit is the internal stillness, I think. Stopping our mind racing, stopping the internal noise that happens and the
Mm.
voices that tell us that we're not good enough, or that tell us we can't hear God, or that suggest that we should be going off doing something else. What are you doing sitting here? You should be busy.
Yeah. Where's your to-do list? Get your to-do list going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What have you
Yeah.
achieved today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All
Yeah.
of
I get
those
that all the
things.
time. Yeah. See the busy
Is
one, the one
is
who
that
wants to
from
be busy.
yourself or from your wife?
No, no, no. Oh, no. Leanne would. Leanne would like me to sit.
Oh,
Relax,
that's
just
right, because
relax, man. Yeah,
you're the
I'm
one
the one
doing the
swimming in the
laps as
background.
she's sitting by
Yeah,
the pool.
I find it hard to sit, to just sit, and so yeah, so it would be no, it's definitely me that's telling me, and so even in the stillness, to like when I started, when I was doing this, I actually felt like, oh, actually, I need a notepad beside me, so I had my phone there so that I could write things down as they came to mind, and then I could push it aside again and
Okay.
focus and just get it out. So, because somebody once said to me, I can't remember who it was, they said, it's normal when you start to
Yeah, it
be
is.
still that
Yeah.
things flood your mind. And so write them down, get rid of them, and then try it again. And I'm like, oh, okay. And as time's gone on, it's been a few weeks since I did that, a number of weeks now since I started practicing, and it does actually work. You can find the stillness, um, and your mind actually, it hears God, sees things that maybe you haven't seen for a while, that maybe God's been, I don't know, he reminds you of things. That's why I said at the beginning, oh, he's been reminding me of this, and that's, so now I'm getting to the why, yeah,
Yeah.
of how I got there, yeah, which
Yeah.
has been good, which has been really good. Hmm.
I've just made a connection. I've been doing some training around asking good questions in a particular context around vulnerable children. And one of the things that this particular expert talks about is superficial memory versus deep memory recall.
Oh,
And so our ability to do deep memory recall. So you're talking about connecting the dots when we still ourselves, being able to
yeah,
do some of that deeper connection.
yeah,
There's a lot of research around allowing ourselves to slow and to connect dots and to do some of the deeper memory work
yeah,
that's there. But it takes the courage. Interesting, vulnerability and courage to
mm,
actually settle ourselves into that space. So it's interesting. When we started this podcast, before we jumped on, we were like, so where's this going to go? What are we going to do in our conversation? Well, let's just see where it heads. But it's interesting. There's this really clear thread that we're talking about around stillness, just
mm,
being able to listen to God. How do we deepen our walk with God? Where's God calling us to go deeper
yeah,
and in the prophetic and to develop? So there's the competence aspect of the prophetic where we can deepen our skills and hear God. But actually, I think there's also this stillness aspect to deepening our character and
mm,
God working in that space as well. And that takes bucket loads of vulnerability and courage to actually
yeah,
sit with God around that as well. And so, it's just really interesting. And so, this theme of discipleship, how are we disciples of Jesus? I think we want this to be a really great reminder for us about some of the really core truths of
mm,
how we're disciples of Jesus, and then how do we step into the prophetic from that space.
yeah,
So, what's your top
absolutely.
tips to help us be still, Andrew?
Well, so one of them would be, as you're starting, maybe have a notepad or your phone beside, not so you can scroll, but so you have the notes section open, so that you can actually write some stuff down. That would be a thing. It was interesting when so I didn't know I was speaking on that topic, but I felt like God guided me to. It's a song by Hillsong called "Still."
Okay.
About 5 or 6 weeks before, and I went, why am I listening to this song? And why is that, like, why is it absolutely, um, in the forefront of my mind? And I did feel like, okay, God, you're going to speak to me about this. And then I realized, oh, actually, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm speaking on this particular psalm, but I didn't realize that aspect of stillness was going to be there. And so not silence, but maybe there are some things that you can put on as background to keep you focused in those moments. And that song was good for me, that
Oh,
song
that's
Still.
good.
Um, and then, I don't know, even just, um, as I said, even creating the posture. that you take. So, just having your feet flat on the floor in front of you, sitting on a chair, and dropping your hands either onto your lap or beside you. It is, I think the word you used before, disarming, and that vulnerable space. It allows you to sit in front of God and say, well, here I am. You be you. I'm just me. And so you do what only you can do, because I can't do anything maybe in this space, or I'm not going to do anything in this space. So I'm just going to allow you. It's a very different posture.
Bit of a, yeah, I'm just like, oh, that's a yes.
Yeah. No, it's confronting, isn't it?
Ah,
It's something I do
ah.
not do well. I do not do it well, but it's been really good. It's been really good. So to be able to sit, be still, and allow God to, you know, and look, there are still things that pop into my head at
Oh, of
different
course.
times, and sometimes they're Bible passages, and sometimes they're people, and sometimes they're, things that are going on, or, and I'll pause and I'll pray, and, and then I'll leave that with God, that sort of stuff. But at the same time, yeah, um, it's good. It's quite refreshing. I don't know. Yeah. The still water bowl thing that you mentioned before, I like that. I reckon something that, because I'm just picturing that person with that bowl. As you sit, like if the bowl's quite full, if you move the wrong way, you're gonna wear the
You're
water,
going to
aren't
wear
you?
the water.
So so holding it still is a challenge. That's a good challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
What would
so
you
much
say?
that,
What would you
well,
say your tips would be? What would you do?
um, I think the worship stuff to help focus and bring you into that space of awareness of God is good. Um, but equally, I'll come back to something you said earlier about when you were burning off the block, being a pyromaniac. And
Yeah. I had registered the burn. It's okay. I've done all the right things.
okay, all
Wasn't that
right.
big? Wasn't a pyromaniac. I was being good.
Actually, I
Just a
shouldn't say that because you guys
Yeah.
had really bad fires out
Yeah, we
there.
did. Yeah, we did. The guy.
That's
Yeah.
really...
No, there's stories. Yeah, we won't go there. Um,
No, a
but
friend of
yeah,
mine
we.
got her back fence burnt down in those fires. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
crazy. It's crazy. If you're
so,
not in Australia, it's an amazing place to live. But fires, and look, there. Even as we speak, there's fires going in the States and in Europe because of the heat wave. It's crazy. So we're thinking about you guys if you're listening in Europe
yeah,
and in those
absolutely.
areas.
Yeah, natural disasters.
Yeah.
I think the stillness aspect for me is all of those things that we know can help us slow down and just calm our hearts and settle the internal hurriedness or the internal task focus that we have.
Hmm.
I find that one of the things I'm trying to practice is the stillness in the busy space. So taking what we do in the intentional discipline.
Yeah.
And when I go into a church service or an environment, just to be present, just to try and put things aside and actually create some internal stillness to enable God to speak around that moment. What does He want in that moment? So I think it's developing the disciplines intentionally that you can then have in your toolkit
Yeah.
to use in other spaces. So hearing God for yourself in the quiet and deepening the stillness. And because I think what it does is that it strengthens our identity, it strengthens our trust in God. And so when we go into other spaces, we don't need to put the defenses up to protect ourselves. We can walk in with the confidence that actually God is present and will
Yeah.
speak in those spaces.
Yeah.
And just be, yeah, that there's something about being fully present in those moments to then be able to hear God and speak and push into that space.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that's really interesting, because if you were really present with David, I'm imagining you're not trying to do 5 or 10 other things at once. You're actually focusing in on him, zoning in on him, looking at him, trying
that
to
would be
listen to the
true.
the
Yeah,
important thing that he wants to say to you. Funny how we don't do that with God, though, isn't it?
I
I'm talking
know.
to myself here as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Like, you
totally,
know what I mean?
totally.
Yeah. And so I think that that is what you just touched on, is such a key to be able to learn and be able
Just
to
as you started
do.
talking about my husband, I'm just like, do I do that? Do I focus on him? I'm not sure that I do. Okay.
I'm sure you
All
do.
right.
I'm sure you do.
Let's not get David on the podcast.
Okay. David can put it in the notes underneath.
Yes.
He can just put the nodding head, or, a little emoji, little smiley emoji. Yes, she does it. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good.
That's hilarious. Andrew, I'm looking at our time and we've ticked up to the half an hour. Amazing how
Wow.
our conversations go fast when
Yeah,
we're talking
absolutely.
about a subject that we love.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited over these next, who knows how long this season will go for in terms of the number of podcasts we pull out. But we're pretty excited to really explore various aspects of discipleship and how that works in the prophetic space. How do we actually, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is talking about how do we help engage maybe people who've gone a bit rogue,
Mm,
some rogue prophets. How do we help engage them in discipleship to help draw them into a space where they're in a healthy relationship with their church and with God?
yeah.
And really looking at those ways. I do have to say, when we were planning, we were just doing the brainstorm around this series. One of the topics which I don't think that we're going to actually do a podcast on was 26 reasons Jesus will be coming back in 2026. So I
Yeah.
suspect that's not going to make the cut of
Yeah, no.
conversations that we have.
Well, it might make your discussion with David really interesting over dinner. I don't think I'll be in that one. I'm not sure I've got too much
Although
wisdom to share.
we might talk about that when we talk about rogue prophets and how do we deal with the prediction element of the
Yeah,
prophetic that comes out. We'll
yeah,
see how we go.
be interesting. Very cool. Well, it's
Well,
been good to
it's
chat today.
great to chat today, and as always, if you have a topic or a question that you're wanting us to consider, please drop us a line, shoot us a message. We would love to explore things that are relevant to you and your context, and we look forward to the next time that we chat. Thanks, Andrew.
Catch you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Prophecy Project. We hope you've been encouraged as you've listened today. We would love to connect with you. You can do that by following Accessible Prophecy on Instagram and Facebook. If you have a question or topic you would like us to cover, please check the podcast information description for ways that you can connect with us and for links to resources, workshops, and coaching. We hope you'll join us for the next Prophecy Project podcast.